Doctor Who's most iconic monster is, of course, the Daleks. How can it not be? They are distinct, quotable, and easily imitatable. And of course, Big Finish wanted to use them. After a string of original monsters, which was the correct move in order to show they could tell stories and not just go, Doctor! Daleks! Yay! But they managed to negotiate with the Terry Nation estate to get to use the Daleks, and Gary Russell's reaction was to commission 4 stories, quote, before they change their minds. At some point, it was decided to make this a connected series, where it's what the Daleks are doing that's the connecting thread, not necessarily what the Doctor is doing. This was called Dalek Empire. You can even see it on the... it's not the spine, it's like that, that little sliver on the side that's not actually part of the CD cover, but is a functional part of the CD. Let me grab one of these. Normally on this, they just say The Audio Adventures of Doctor Who. But this, it just said, for this, it just says Dalek Empire. I don't remember exactly. I'm sure I will put the picture up. Okay, remind myself to double check I put that in the right spot. This would eventually lead into Nick Briggs' series, which was also called Dalek Empire. Now, these are less connected to the self-titled series from what I can remember, but we'll see as this continues. The original Dalek Empire series, the one in the monthly range, spans releases 7, 11, 15, and 32. Wait, 32? Each of these would feature a different Doctor. The first Dalek Empire story, The Genocide Machine, was written by Mike Tucker, directed by Nick Briggs, with a cover by Clayton Hickman. I love the cover here. The 7th Doctor is excellently moody. The jungle setting and the library in the background both look great. And of course, the black and gold Dalek looks excellent. As you can tell, I don't have a toy of a black and gold Dalek, so I did what I could. Despite this being notable for being the first Dalek story Big Finish did, I don't really hear many people talk about it. Yes, it's not the best Dalek story, but it has a lot of great ideas, and it's the first, but it was also really interesting and a very fun listen. Now, something I like to talk about if it ever comes up in one of these reviews is an alternate title, because those are fun. Now, it has been a bit since I've talked about one, because I guess the other titles were fine, but here we have an interesting alternate title. Usually the original titles are just things listed as fun facts in the Big Finish companion. But here, the original title was actually said in a trailer for this story. It was shown on the release The Land of the Dead, which is still there if you go and check the download. When I was listening to the trailers at the end of that release, I heard the trailer for this one, except it was called Wetworks. There is a thing called a Wetworks in the story that is very much a focus of it. We'll get to it later. But the main reason for the title change was, apparently, for the title to be more structurally similar to the other stories in Dalek Empire. The other titles were The Apocalypse Element and The Mutant Phase. But the last one, which, as I alluded to earlier, came out much later, after the first series of Dalek Empire, the spin-off series, actually. The two of them being named the same makes this really frustrating to talk about, but we'll just do what we can. But the last one with the 8th Doctor was called The Time of the Daleks. I'm guessing because it came later, it didn't have to fit with the thing title structure. Onto the story itself, I mentioned it when I talked about the cover, but the plot takes place on a planet that has a library that has all the knowledge of the universe. This library is hidden from the universe because the librarians realize all of the knowledge of the universe could be used for nefarious purposes. So in that way, it's more like the library from Avatar: The Last Airbender. I have a suspicion that the librarian, that's what we'll call him, from that episode of Avatar, Wan Shi-tong, would be useful in this story. Back to the story we're actually reviewing, though. The Daleks try to break into the library to use the knowledge of the library to take over the universe. So yes, those fears are justified. The Daleks' plan is really straightforward. Since there are shields and a hologram that hide the library from basically anyone seeing it, they can't get in. So they come up with a very simple and obvious plan. They leave Daleks hidden in statues around that planet and neighboring planets until a time traveler happens to come near one of them so that they can use that librarian to get into the library and use that time traveler's brain to channel the digital knowledge of the library into a Dalek so they can use it. Simple. By the way, in this release, they do get far enough in the plan to put the knowledge into a Dalek, and then that Dalek starts thinking. And this is much to the frustration of the other Daleks, which is just a great commentary on what fascists think about people who think. A couple of fun notes about the Daleks' plans in this is the Special Weapons Dalek makes an appearance, which is awesome. They also make a clone of Ace. She's great. Like I said in the Beyond the Sun review, Sophie Aldred clearly has a lot of fun getting a chance to play a villain, even if it's just a villainous version of her character. It's really great. But onto the other characters in the story, there's some really good characters, like Bev Tarrant. She's a thief that is going to the planet, not for the library. She has no idea about it. She's there to steal one of the ruins from there, a statue. Bad luck for her, that's the statue that a Dalek is hiding in as part of their plans. So, the theft goes about as well as you would expect with a Dalek waiting inside of the statue you're trying to steal. When I was listening to this, as they talked about Bev, I thought, man, that name's really familiar. Where have I heard it before? And then I remembered, oh, that's the name of a supporting character in Bernice Summerfield. So, I guess Big Finish just used the same name twice. Turns out, it's actually the same character, played by the same actor. I don't know how I didn't know this, but it's really fun that she continued into the non-Doctor Who series, and that Big Finish just uses characters across all their ranges. It's really nice. It's really fun when you notice things like that. And I do kind of hate to say this, but my favorite supporting character in this is Plink. Plink is the head librarian Elgin's assistant. He is a silent character. Any time in this whole story that he's about to speak, which is more often than you would think, someone happens to interrupt him. It's a really good running gag. Elgin even refers to Plink as a blabbermouth, which it's just real clever to call a silent character a blabbermouth. It's stupid, it's simple, it's sort of obvious, but it is funny. Plink actually does get one line towards the end, which makes it stand out so much that they actually got a different actor to do this one line. It's just so good. It's the perfect culmination of this. Now, when I was re-listening to this, I noticed anytime Plink is about to speak, you hear an audible intake of breath, and it really just drives the joke home even further. It's really good. Now, let's talk about the story's title, because the title is odd. Genocide Machine. What does that mean? Is it the Daleks, who just go around killing everything? No, actually. Daleks are not machines. They are creatures in casings. The library on the planet features both physical books as well as a digital backup in a special computer called a Wetworks. Oh, that's where the original title comes from. The Doctor is very impressed by it, since according to him, most Wetworks can only handle gigabytes. There is a phrase I came across at one point, and that is, don't use numbers in your fiction. Otherwise people will do things like what I'm about to do. You do not need a giant water-based computer system for an amount of data that can fit in the palm of my hand. Upon learning about the Wetworks, the Doctor asks Elgin questions about the Wetworks, such as how did he handle the problems that come up with Wetworkses, such as differentiation of currents and droplet cohesion, both of which Elgin dismisses. It turns out the water in the machine, since it is a Wetworks, it's a water-based system, the water is actually special. It comes from the planet they're on and can hold lots of knowledge. And if you're smelling something bad coming, you're right! Elgin specifically saw the water was weird and chose not to ask any questions. because that would mean they probably couldn't build the greatest library in the universe. And when the Doctor learns the truth about the Wetworks and confronts Elgin about this, Elgin acts really guilty. The water, it turns out, contains the native intelligent species of the planet, and the data being forced into the water is essentially overwriting the people in the water. This sort of feels like what the Wachowskis supposedly wanted to do with the Matrix, where instead of people being batteries, they were data storage. I think. Let me double check that. The fan theory is actually that the people were supposed to be CPUs, but when I checked, no one could actually find a quote of either of the Wachowskis confirming the theory, so I feel like I'm close enough that I'm just gonna go with that. While Elgin insists he didn't know what the water actually contained, it also is said in the story that Elgin and the other librarians spread a rumor about these things that are around the planet, these phantoms of the planet, which it turns out are the rest of the population of the planet trying to free their fellow beings in the Wetworks. These rumors dissuaded people from looking too closely into the living creatures that are the water of the planet. So yeah, they're really guilty. Overall, this story is a really good one, with a lot of really great ideas. The water natives are a really interesting thing, and points out a lot of what happens when you don't ask questions about the effects of what you are doing. And in this story, it's great to hear the Doctor call Elgin out for trying to play dumb. I am finding a lot of these early Big Finish stories are somehow more relevant today than they were in their original time, so that's fun. Yeah, that's good. I feel like I'm getting I just noticed this is pulled out. Why did I pull those out? I have no memory. Those were, I don't know if that's in frame, but those were out of the shelf the entire time I was reviewing this. Whatever. It's done. We filmed it. Good. Thank you. Oh no! His hand fell out. They can do that? Come on, go back in. Is it good? Okay. Let's do that again. Doctor versus Daleks.